Founders are usually a very limited group of people that start a company and have a vision, and then they build a team around themselves.
Before the recent election, many politicians wanted to be seen as being startup friendly. But the question is this real or is this actually hot air? Delighted to be joined by Chairman of the Board of startups.lu, Patrick. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Now, startups.lu, it's an association, isn't it?
Yes, we are actually the Luxembourg Startups Association. So we do represent the over 500 startups of Luxembourg.
Right, so in contrast, you're not a government-financed association, therefore.
It is a group of founders working together. So I have a board around me of 9 people, all founders of startups who are there to represent the ecosystem and to pinpoint some initiatives which could be taken in Luxembourg to help the ecosystem grow faster and to have more success stories in Luxembourg.
Now, are you a real startup person yourself?
I've had a couple of startups, yes.
Successful?
Many failed. Some are still around, like the Tena app to book an appointment with your doctor, or at home a website where you can find your real estate.
Okay, you know what? You've really convinced me. You know what you're talking about. From your perspective, when you meet other founders, what sort of topics of conversation do they raise with you?
There's one recurring subject, which is how do I get funds for my project? So, well, let's first start. What is the definition of a startup? There's actually many. And we had to ask the question to ourselves as an association. So we came up with 2 major elements in this definition. First, it is a project where there is some kind of innovation and you're looking for your product market fit. So it comes with some risks. You're not sure that your product will be successful. And second, it's for growth. And when you mean for growth, is you want to grow fast, but really fast. Actually, building a company takes decades. If you think about household names or family businesses, they have been built over generations.
Sure.
Now, in the digital world, it has to go much faster. And innovation very often is digital.
Somebody told me that you've only got 2 years to really make a typical idea work before someone else copies it and does it for you.
Well, it's not fully true. It depends on which area you're in. There's a lot of verticals. There's a lot of talk about fintech. We have space tech or deep tech and health tech, etc. Take space, for example, or deep tech. Deep tech is a lot of investment going into the product, which may be a cycle of 3 to 5 years before you can go with your product to someone and show him for him to buy.
Right, so this great big development phase. Now,
yes.
That development phase needs money. In Luxembourg, where do people turn to for money?
There's a lot of very buoyant business angel community. We are actually doing better than other countries when it comes to seed investment. And despite the fact, and which is one of the points that we have highlighted as an association, that we lack an incentive scheme for investors. So in other countries, if you are a private investor and you are investing in a startup, well, the state will give you some kind of fiscal advantage because you actually know that 7 out of 10 startups do not survive the first 3 years. So your investment is more like a donation to young people, mostly young people, young founders that want to build something new.
So we want to encourage this, and you're saying actually building this into the tax system is the way to go?
Yes, the UK is a formidable example. They've had it for over a decade. It works brilliantly. They have redirected a lot of private money into projects. And if you ask the startups here in Luxembourg, what are they going to do with the money? They're going to recruit people. They want to hire, because that's the way to grow faster, is by hiring more skilled developers or more skilled salespeople. You actually need both to be a successful company.
Now, I'm surprised that Luxembourg hasn't done this already. Why do you think they're hesitating to restructure the tax system?
Well, I think that we have a decade behind us where Luxembourg got a bit pinpointed for being too too creative when it comes to finance incentives, mostly for the finance industry. So it wasn't that much high on the agenda. That's also where we can help, is to pinpoint that now this ecosystem has grown to a critical size where it makes sense to give more priority to these initiatives.
Right, this takes me to an interesting question about when you meet founders, who are these people? I mean, you mentioned that they're quite young. Are they new people coming into Luxembourg, or are they living here already?
Well, I recently stumbled upon statistics by the Barcelona startup ecosystem, and they were bragging to have the second highest number of foreign founders in Barcelona. Now, I can say number one is Luxembourg. We have 86% of companies being started, incorporated in Luxembourg, are founded by non-Luxembourgish people. So it is really a fertile ground for people coming to Luxembourg. There's lots of support of institutional players who are doing a great job at helping these companies grow international, because none of them has the target just to do something for Luxembourg. It is the base, the foundation that you will build here, and very quickly you will go international and you can conquer all of Europe from Luxembourg.
Do these government agencies do a good job?
Oh, they're very much dedicated, and if you look at it from a historic perspective, it's around 2018-19 that the major initiatives did pop up. Initiatives like the Technoport have been around for 25 years or so, but all of a sudden around 2018 there was multiple projects popping up, and indeed it has accelerated the growth of the ecosystem.
Now, let's go back to tax for a second, because I know a lot of these founders are single, but Luxembourg is not a happy or an easy place to be single, is it?
Yeah, well, that's a wrong image that we have. Lots of people think if you come to Luxembourg and live there, you will earn good money. Now, the fact is that our tax system is not that much better than the average European. And that's one of the things that we try to pinpoint, is to say, the system, let's say the focus of Luxembourg in the early 2000s was to attract people for the finance industry. So how do you attract lawyers with their families? What do you have to offer them to relocate from London with all this group of people, families? And there's lots of initiatives we can see around it, the Philharmonie, etc., offering sports, the schools that have been done for families. Now, in the startups, if you look at the average age, it's more like early 20s, and there's a different offering that we need there. And of course, on the taxation, bachelors are still get heavier taxed than families, which we think is unfair. And of course, it is not helping the startups. So there should be more initiatives for bachelors in Luxembourg.
Gosh, I totally agree with that, being a bachelor myself. Now, talking about money, there's the topic of remuneration, isn't there? So founders in other countries seem to make as much money from their own stock, don't they, as they do from their salaries. Can we learn from this?
Yeah, well, it's not only the founders, actually. Founders are usually a very limited group of people that start a company and have a vision, and then they build a team around themselves. So we have a lot of smaller seed projects, which is like the early days of a project. What we want to have in Luxembourg, and that's something which got pinpointed by several studies, is that now that we have that many projects, we want champions to come out of there, which means that we want them to move from a startup to a scale-up. And a scale-up is like having 50, 100, or 500 employees. That's what's then afterwards, when you get a successful exit, all the skills that have been learned there, the money that have been earned there, will be reinvested into the ecosystem by many of the people, and you will get like the famous PayPal or Amazon mafias, like they're being called, which is just former employees launching again new startups. And where did they get the means to do so? Well, it's because the startup didn't really pay a lot of money in cash for their salary, but they did get some options of the big cake. So the founders are very happy to share the cake with their employees and make sure that they also get a fair share of the success. So because they know very much that to bring their project to the next level, they're going to need great people around them. It's a team effort very often, always a team effort. All my success have been due to a tremendous team of managers, but also experts around them, around that project to make it happen. And there, being able to give stock options is important. When we speak about stock options, what we want is a specific taxation for those. You can get options today, but then the earn-out will be taxed just like normal revenue. What we want is for startups, for people who have taken more risk, who have taken a reduced salary for a couple of years, instead of working for a big bank or other employer that can pay well. They work for a lower salary for a couple of years. Well, if they are successful with their project, they should have an earn-out at the end, which is less tax to compensate for that. And if all turns well, for them to have even a bigger bonus.
Now, last question before I let you go is that I feel in the political debate in general, there are many voices out there, including the very active voices of the trade unions. And their voice seems to be very loud. Do you feel as though the voices of startups is loud enough?
Definitely not. That's what we're working on. I think we've been around now since summer 22. And in a year and a half, we did get a lot of recognition. We now have close to 200 members, still growing. Every month we have new ones being added. We're just launching a legal toolkit for the startups to have access to documents without having to buy them or at expensive rates. And so there's more things to come from our side in 24, where we will help startups make themselves heard.
Brilliant. Patrick Kersten is the chairman of startups.lu. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.